All right, everybody out there. Just coming back at you after the stream. Died there a couple of minutes ago. Not too sure what exactly happened. Went out and turned on and off the internet anyway. So hopefully that sorts it out for a little bit. Turning on and off, it always works, doesn't it? Hopefully I'm coming out loud and clear there to people anyway. Let me give me a second or two there now. Getting excellent. Yeah, I see that's working there anyway over on YouTube. Excellent. Facebook is the same. We're live on Facebook too. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Second it. Boom. Yes, let's pack up our ball. Yeah, back again, Reza. Hunter's out there as well. Mr. Finnegan, I've paid my bills, man. I'm going to be taking up a little argument there now with these service providers. I did my part. They got to do their part. I want my money back. Shit, I don't know. Should we be doing another bowl of this Glueberry? I'm going to be glued to this chair like a big berry. If I could blaze on up. Right, got a bowl to blaze. Who else is out there in the audience? Cedri's out there as well. Boom. Got a couple of other bits of news that I want to get into, you guys, because it's very important that I cover these. Some of them are, I suppose I know how you look at it. It's positive in one aspect. There's more people coming out, speaking out, and all of that. But it's kind of it's upsetting as well at the same time. You know, patients having to speak out to gain access to something that's providing them benefit in their life. But it is great to see more people coming out, new faces coming on the scene. People finding new ground in which to stand upon to speak and tell their stories. So it's great. We'll touch off that there in a couple of seconds. Let's blaze one up to those unsung heroes out there. Yeah, Dahi, we're back. Can't kill a good thing. Inhale that good shit. Exhale all the bullshit. Boom. Don't know why I have that thing up there anyway. Like it's not even in front of the microphone. So some of the other news, as I said, there's some other faces that we want to bring into the scene. But before we go there, Germany, seems like Germany's their plans to legalize cannabis. There should be some announcements being made there very soon. Seems like the people back over in the German government, the experts, so to speak, they were there talking yesterday. I was looking online to see if there was anybody got news on or online, anybody over there on the ground able to get some information about what actually happened in those. Got a flying baby there and coming by. We were trying to find out what was actually after happening over there as part of those the discussions that took place there yesterday over in Germany. But alas, couldn't find anything. So we should have some good news coming out of Germany. But Luxembourg is interesting, as I came across a news article there that was talking about Luxembourg's plans for cannabis legalization are not what they were initially thought to be. We'll get this article off there, that old gone bean. But yes, Luxembourg's laws let you smoke a joint at home. But if you get caught with up to 3 grams of cannabis, you can still face a fine. If you get caught with more than that, you could face a bit of a harsher punishment. So it's a bit strange one. You know, you're allowed. They're saying that you're going to be able to grow up to 4 plants at home, and you can consume cannabis at home, but you're not going to be able to bring that cannabis out of your home, and you're not going to be able to consume it anywhere outside of your home either. So it's a strange one. You know, if you're a cannabis consumer, then you're imprisoned to your own home. And if you want to consume cannabis at a friend's house, then you should hope that they're growing cannabis over there and have some for you to share when you arrive, rather than you having to bring your own, because that could be dangerous. Whereas consuming cannabis, it's not that dangerous. Getting caught with it's quite dangerous. So the Luxembourg government, they got elected, I believe, in 2018, and as part of their election plans, they were planning to legalize and regulate the production, sale, and distribution of cannabis. But unfortunately, they're falling far short of that promise in what they're seeming to deliver here. This was the Justice Minister, Sam Tansen, after he put forward a new law which allows people to grow 4 plants at home. And it says, although people must keep them out of sight and can only consume the drug at home, that was as part of a press conference there on Wednesday. So again, very watered down plans here. It's not what people thought it was going to be. The fines here, it says, can range from €145 and up to €500 under the new law. So that's no legalization at all, really. You're able to grow it at home, you're able to have it at home, consume it at home, but you're not allowed to step foot outside your door with it. What's the story if you're out your back garden? That they say you can't grow it within from eyes. So if your neighbor is able to see it from their upstairs window, you're not allowed to grow cannabis out your back garden. That's unfortunate, isn't it? Or if your neighbor is offended by the smell of your consumption, let's say you got a particularly stinky old plant growing maybe in the corner of your garden where you can't see it, but they can still smell it. Like, they still complain about you. I don't know. Look, it's a good thing you're able to grow 4 plants, you're able to consume a home, but then it's far short of where the Luxembourgians, what you call people from Luxembourg, but those people anyway, it's far short of what they thought they were going to be getting initially when the government was elected a couple of years back. But let's hope that Germany gets it right anyway. So we go then from Ireland, from Luxembourg back to Ireland then, where I want to introduce you to Anne Williams. So Anne Williams, I hope she doesn't mind. I know she doesn't mind me sharing this. This is a post she put up here on her Facebook page. She tagged myself and a number of others, and she was also recently featured in a news article, which I'll get to in a second. But she says here in a Facebook post, "My name is Anne Williams, and according to the law, I am a criminal at close to 80 years of age. My crime is that my medicine of choice is cannabis oil, which I have been taking nightly since 2018 to keep my COPD away. Now, over 4 years after my diagnosis, I am still free of a chronic disease. God bless medical cannabis." MC, she says there. That's not Martin Condon, that's medical cannabis. She says, "I continue to take my 2 drops nightly for maintenance, as traditional medicine has no answer to this condition. Who in their right mind would refuse to take a medication that heals them?" Exactly. What's the story? You're going to choose to be illegally healed or illegally suffering? I know what choice I'd be going for anyway. Illegally healed any day. So yeah, break any law, because it's wrong to make access to something as healing as cannabis is illegal. It really is wrong, and it should never have been done. And this is a result of a post like this. And goes on to say, "I do not grow it or sell it, so I have no alternative but to buy it on the black market, thus putting money into the pockets of dealers and drug gangs." And she putting in brackets here then, "I completely exclude the person who supplies me with the correct strains and strength of my oil, as they are upstanding members of our society with compassion and knowledge who care." So like she's kind of differentiating here, from the organized crime gangs, some of the infamous ones we would know of, such as the Kinahans and such as those absolute vile thugs who dismembered the body of that teenager, Cian Mulready Woods. Absolutely atrocious acts, all because of the prohibition of drugs. It's nothing to really do with the drugs. It was more to do with the idealistic drug policies, the misled the misled communities that support this as well, because they're all suffering as a result of it. But she goes on to say anyway that the age-old question is worth repeating. Why are we who use it forced to commit unlawful acts in order to stay strong and good health? Why are they forcing this upon us? Yes, hundreds and hundreds of crimes are being committed daily by people like myself. They are not our crimes. Who makes the rules? Look no further. As long as these archaic laws remain and the use of cannabis is not decriminalised and regulated, we will be joined by thousands more. We have no choice. Personally, I would rather be illegally alive than illegally dead. She finished off signing off. Thanks, and with a little kiss going out there. No X. Also adding in the hashtag what about us. That was a campaign launched there recently by Gino Kenny and the patients suffering without access to cannabis in Ireland because they've been excluded from the medicinal cannabis access program. And that was a part of the feature there at the weekend at the conference above in Dublin for the Patients for Safe Access. She also includes a hashtag who is Spartacus. So again, who is Spartacus? It's kind of I'm Spartacus. You know that thing. Like, so we all need to step up and stand our ground together. Like, we are all Anne Williams. We are all Amy Brown. That's the kind of approach. Like, what one goes down, we all go down because we're all fighting for the same thing out there at the end of the day. We're all fighting to lift a wrongful prohibition that was put in our society, a prohibition that caused nothing but suffering since its inception. So she says who is Spartacus, but I say I am Anne Williams, and I am all of those other patients who suffer without access to patients too, should one of them go down because of their illegal use of cannabis, then I believe we should all be going down together. So fair play, Anne Williams. It's unfortunate you to do that, Anne, but well done for doing it. And as I said, we go to the Patients for Safe Access then as the Patients for Safe Access Ireland, where we held our national conference there over the weekend. And there's some pictures there popped up on screen. You see some of the activists there. You see Carly Barton alongside of Alicia Maher and Alan Robinson. Also, I would imagine that's an associate of Carly. Maybe with her. Apologies for not knowing your name. It's not here on the picture, and we didn't get to properly chat above. There is you had to rush off for an old flight early. But there was many other pictures taken there. It's just bringing me to all the CAN card stuff now, as it was a CAN card photo. Here's the Patients for Safe Access photos. There's our Prime Director, Martin O'Brien, came all the ways over from the sunny California after leaving the sunny Cork City many years ago to go over and establish a rave scene over there in California. Then later going on to set up the Berkeley's Patients Care Collective. And then Foxworthy Farms then as well. Absolute legend. Hope to meet up with him actually before he heads back over there to California. I think he might be leaving in the next day or two. But he's an absolute hero. There was a great panel of speakers up there. Here's one particular panel featuring Gino Kenny there close from the left. Then we had Richard, the CEO of Olio. Olio is one of the approved medical cannabis providers there by the HPRA for the patients under the medical cannabis access program. But again, there's a need for wider access there because currently it's just not enough. I believe Gino Kenny, TD for the People Before Profit, said there's only 12 patients currently getting access to cannabis via the medical cannabis access program. And I believe a lot of those are just getting the Epidiolex. Don't believe any of them are actually getting any of Richard's products as of just yet. He's getting flour from Bedrocan coming over from Holland. But it'd be very interesting to see if someday he could be providing flowers that were grown here in Cork to the patients that need it across Ireland, as he's a Cork man himself. That's an important feature of Richard. It's probably one of his more important ones, as we say about all the Cork people. Then we've Garrett McGovern, and we won't hold it against him that he's not from Cork, as he's got another incredible accolade as being probably one of the very few very outspoken doctors here, GPs in Ireland, speaking against the prohibition of drugs and the prohibition of cannabis. He's an amazing individual. He's an addiction specialist, and the things he had an interview with myself. So hopefully all of you've already seen that. If you haven't, go check it out. But Garrett McGovern, he's an absolute. He is. It's like as they say, all heroes don't wear capes. This guy, certainly not wearing a cape, but is a hero. Natalie O'Regan then, another incredible individual, was part of an incredible group of campaigners down there in Ballyfihan, the Tidy Towns, so hopefully she'll be helping out there with the Tidy Buds, as well as we take on a campaign here in Cork. She's also a legal expert, recently graduated from UCC with a degree in law, and is incredibly read up on laws around cannabis in Ireland and Europe as well, and a great campaigner there for the end of cannabis prohibition. Stephen Garland then, who is hosting that talk, suffer with primary progressive multiple sclerosis. Should be in a wheelchair, but thanks to radical intervention over there in Russia and medical cannabis, Stephen is still up and about with the aid of a walking stick, and thanks to cannabis, he's not suffering as he would be should he been maybe required to take some of the more sedative opiates, and the toll they take on a person's body, bloating them, leaving them lethargic and just withdrawn and all of that kind of crack. Cannabis doesn't do that, Stephen. Cannabis gives Stephen a real upbeat attitude, and he's another hero. I think I'm overusing the word hero. He's a legend. Steve, you're a legend, why? It was great. It was a great conference. Hopefully, people caught the first half via the live stream. I did. My phone went dead. I couldn't get the second half of it up. But the Patients for Safe Access will have the recorded better angles, as well as mine was quite limited from where I was sitting. But that should be up online there in the coming days. So get over there, follow the Patients for Safe Access, Facebook, Instagram, I think we're on Twitter as well. Yeah, we are on Twitter actually. Nice full room there as well. Great interaction from the crowd on a day. Great support as always from the community here. And I look forward to doing more with them. But Amy Brown was up there, and she was featured before the conference in an article. And I just wanted to bring it up as I think it's just very, very powerful that what was said at the end of this article, and get over there, give it a read if you haven't already done so. This has been heavily shared since it was published, I have to say. But the headline is Tipperary chronic pain sufferer buying cannabis on black market makes me feel dirty. And it says a woman who has suffered pain for 20 years calls for a drug to be available legally to patients in off licenses and dispensaries. And I hate that they say drug, because effectively what she's saying, she wants access to a plant. She wants access to a herbal medicine, a herbal preparation. Do you see how they like she says what makes them feel dirty? Like the use of that word there and that subheading to it, that also makes me as a patient who requires this to feel almost dirty. I'm not calling for the drug to be legalized or whatever. I'm calling for a plant to be decriminalized. I'm calling for a plant for access to a plant and for the medicines that come from that. They use the word drug, but when we look at it, it's a herbal preparation really. When it's used correctly. It's a drug to the prohibitionists. It's a drug in the derogatory sense, to them. It's not effectively, it's a plant. It's a plant. That's what it is, and what comes from it. Marinol, which is a synthesized form of THC. That's a drug. You see the difference? Amy doesn't want a drug. Amy wants the plant. Amy wants the flowers. Because the flower is what gives her great benefits. Amy would like the extracts as well. And again, the extracts are not like Marinol. Marinol is a synthesized pharmaceutical drug. Even though it is a THC molecule, it's pretty much identical to it. But it's synthesized. That's a drug. What Amy wants is a plant medicine, a herbal preparation, a herbal extract, not a drug. So again, that subheading is a bit dirty as well, forgive me for the nitpicking at it, but we have to, don't we? Again, it's great the journalists covered it, it's a great article, and the most powerful part of it, it's a very positive ending to this, in some light, I suppose. because there was a very powerful statement made by Amy within this. Amy suffers with endometriosis as well, which is something we're going to touch off of in a little bit. It's a condition that suffers 1 in 10 women, but getting a diagnosis with it is incredibly difficult. As Amy informed us in the interview I did with Amy there a couple of months ago, maybe a year or so ago. Actually, maybe it's been a while now. Actually, we'll have to get you back on, actually, Amy. But she says here. Prohibition makes me feel dirty. It's not fair. I don't want to be reduced to that. I should be able to go into an off license or a dispensary and be able to choose which strain I want to suit which ailment. She says, if I was in Canada, there is Endometriosis Network Canada, which runs workshops on what strains to consume, in which ways, and which is best for what symptoms. But she says here, and here in Ireland, she's referring to, I am a criminal or a junkie, because in the eyes of a guard, you're a criminal. But in the eyes of a good few people out there in society, not all, but to some people out there, they would look at, different, as a junkie, as a druggie, for lack of better terms there, there's all sorts of derogatory words there we would use to describe an illegal drug user. But a criminal or a junkie, she says here, and she says, if I died tomorrow, there will be outpourings for me to rest in peace. But where is the outcry for me to live in peace? And it's so true, if Amy was to be one of the many women out there who unfortunately suffer with accidental drug overdoses, which is when a person takes the prescribed amount of a drug but still suffers a fatal overdose. It's a very common thing to happen, especially for women who suffer with endometriosis, who rely heavily on opiates and other pain relieving type medications, which can cause respiratory failure. And it's very common for women within these communities, to have what's known as accidental overdoses. The person just, unfortunately, because of the overuse of the drug, that the body just one day just that dose is just enough to kill the person, or sometimes maybe they might just just keep on taking it, forget the fact they took it earlier on that day, and they just keep on dosing to deal with the pain as it's not effective, and overdosing that way again as well, accidentally, not intentionally. It's crazy. So to go over that article, read it's a great article. Well done, Amy Brown, for getting it out there. Very, very powerful statement. And hopefully, that it's enough to shake it up a little, enough to get the change that's needed here in Ireland, and the access that's needed to end the suffering, and the plight of people like yourself, the people like Anne Williams, and the many others who are going to come after us, as Anne so eloquently says. If there's not going to be anything done about it, there's going to be thousands more continue to join her in breaking the law and be illegally healed. Because why wouldn't you? As more and more people find out about the benefits of cannabis, why wouldn't you break the law to get access to it? So, like the judge says, it's the drug users creating the crime. No, it's the prohibitionists creating the crime. It's the prohibitionists making the patients go out there and support the drug dealers and the organised crime gangs to get access to a substance to effectively cure whatever ailment it's suffering them. We all know our body's best, and unless you're suffering mentally, you're not going to choose to do something that's going to be of detriment to you, at least not willingly. Yeah, welcome back everybody out there in the hot box. Apologies for dropping the stream there a couple of minutes ago. Nice to see you all. Green Tea, Mr. Finnegan, Miss Dawes, CG, Hunter, Zombie, Temple Grower Die. Yeah, I see lots of you out there again. Great to see everybody in the hot box. Let's drive on, guys, because we go from one story of an endometriosis sufferer to another article here, which is cannabis use and endometriosis management during COVID-19 pandemic. And this was a study that was done there recently over in Australia. It was a retrospective study. It was a study using the recall of the patients, just asking them after the fact. So that is a problem with this study, but nonetheless, there was some interesting findings from the study. The study was an online study, although it was done over in Australia. It was done online. So some of the groups included in the study were Nancy's Nuke, So that's obviously an endometriosis group. Endometriosis Australia, Endometriosis New Zealand, World Endometriosis Organization, Centre for Endometriosis Research, Endometriosis Ireland. So I just wanted to make sure you got that. Endometriosis Ireland was in there. So I would imagine Amy Brown was probably one of the patients who took part and responded to the study. And then finally, the Endometriosis Network Canada, which Amy mentioned earlier, also does workshops for the women over there who use cannabis to treat the symptoms of their endometriosis. So the study was put out there to a pool of 95,000 women. And there was efforts to make sure that only one response could come back by putting in a restrictions around the IP addresses, so that there was nobody doing repeat submissions, to skew the data maybe or anything like that. So there was efforts there to ensure the quality around the data that was coming back. But 95,000 women were given the study, but only 1,635 responded to it. So that was a good response though, from that pool of women. From that, it said that over 50% of the women had used the cannabis in the 12 weeks prior to the end of the study. So the quite a large level of the respondents there were using cannabis for their symptom relief. So again, you can go and have a look at the study. There's not much else in it. It goes into the breakdown of some of the symptoms. The most common symptom being used actually wasn't pain, which was interesting. It was stress and anxiety was the most common reported symptom, which the participants were using cannabis to treat. So that was one interesting thing. And then that was followed by a symptomatic treatment due to difficulty accessing medical care, 48%. So I'm not too sure what exactly that one meant. But if you want to go into it and have a look, you'll be able to find it there up online. But nonetheless, more evidence here suggesting that there's a large population out there of women within Ireland suffering with a condition that they could be receiving treatment for. But unfortunately, because of the ignorance of our healthcare system here and the health providers to actually go and investigate this more, they're having to do so illegally, or maybe suffer on without, or again, maybe one of the few who have accidental overdoses from frequent use of pain relief, which leads to death. And cannabis use, it's not going to kill you. It's not, despite what some of the prohibitionists might try to lead you to believe. So again, more evidence just to support the need for change of our laws here, a need to end the prohibition of cannabis and end the suffering of so many women out there, and so many others, not just endometriosis. This is just one condition. 1 in 10 women suffer with this, so that's a lot of women in Ireland. 50% of the respondents to this study were using cannabis. I'd imagine a large proportion of those women, when you look at it, came from other areas. I'd imagine the respondents from Ireland, when you looked at that as a population compared to the others, probably had a very low percentage maybe using cannabis. And the reason for that, not because cannabis isn't effective, it's because using cannabis is illegal. And some people are actually afraid to break the law, and unfortunately, they do be petrified of it, or maybe they're afraid to take on the stigma that comes with being an illegal drug user in Ireland. Whatever that fucking means, like an illegal drug user. Like what a use of words, and where it leads people, with pain and suffering needlessly, when a nice extract from a plant, a herbal inhaler, simple pain melts away. So we go from there then, and we look at another news story coming out of Ireland. A man was arrested after Gardaí discovered bags of cannabis in County Kildare. This is above a place called Salins. The value slapped on this seizure here, like some massive haul. Look, all these little baggies. I feel sorry for you, man, in fairness, like the dealer in this, because it's just red-handed. Like, there's no way you can say that you weren't dealing. Like, boy, I went up to my dealer, and this is I wanted a couple of 2 ounces, and he just had it in 50 bags. So I bought it off him. It's like, no judge is going to buy that. Like, and I've had situations like that where I've gone to buy a quarter, and your man would give you 250 bags, and you're like, what's this like? And he's like, oh, there's 3.5 grams in each bag, and you're like, boy, just give me a big bag and let me put it into that, like, because you don't want to be caught with two baggies. I've heard stories of people being handed fucking 450 bags, like, and it's been like, Sean, what's going on here? There's your half ounce, like, and you're like, I don't want 450 bags, like, don't drive on, like. But this lad was definitely doing a bit of wheeling and dealing, all prepped up here. The value €2,400. But what I want to bring attention to is how many people, like Anne Williams is fortunate enough that it seems like that she was being looked after by somebody who's not engaged in this type of behavior. But how many people out there are actually suffering and were reliant on this individual? It was a young lad too, I believe. But it actually it's just as a male. It's not actually given the age of a person, but I'd imagine it was probably a young lad. A load of 50 bags for his buddies. That's what it is. Like, it's a load of 50 bags. There's one or two of them here are stuffed. Like, they were probably his own bags. But like, look at those ones on the left there. They're all stuffed, whereas the ones on the right aren't. There's like 1.5 bags, 3.5 gram bags. A 50 bag and a 25 bag. 1 gram for 20, is it? And 50 for 3.5. How many patients are without medicine now as a result of this? How many people self-medicating using cannabis now, or was without their source of cannabis as a result of this? And maybe you're put at risk of going to another source and facing the other the other risks we as consumers face, which is contaminated cannabis. It's ridiculous. And that's another headline there coming out of the Irish Examiner. This is only posted yesterday. Unsuspected cannabis users warned of toxic synthetic versions of the drug. It says unsuspecting cannabis users are being warned that some deals they are buying are being sprayed with toxic synthetic versions of the drug, posing greater health risks. And it says separately, EU health experts are alerting cannabis users to extremely strong cannabis resin in circulation, with average strength almost twice that of cannabis herb, which used to be more potent. And that's hilarious, like, that they're warning us of very strong cannabis resin. But how can we protect ourselves from the strong hash? Like, our dealers, they're going to tell us it's the strongest stuff, like, when you go buy it. Meanwhile, the guys are saying, hey, be wide of that strong stuff. But when we go buy it, that's how it's being marketed to us. But actually, when it comes down to it, when we're doing judging competitions and stuff like that over in the US of A, what they're actually finding is that strength isn't a factor in determining consumers' approval. The determining factor is often, the mix of terpenes that are in there. Moreover than the potency of the cannabis, THC comes in second to that. To quite often or not, it's actually the terpene profile which comes in as a primary choice there for consumers. But it's because of the model of prohibition. It was always around the strength of a product. But it's interesting what they're probably talking about here as well. And this is the old dabs. I'll pop one up on screen there now for you. The old wax stuff, get her up there now for you. 1 more second. There we go. This stuff. The old wax, dab and wax. We're talking about it there. 710 dabs, concentrates, extracts. This is probably what they're talking about. This stuff can come in up to like 50, 60, 70% THC. Or, THC, 50, 60, 70%, maybe 80% if you were getting a really good one. Like, but that's what they're probably talking about. There's probably been more seizures of this stuff, as there's been a lot more seizures coming in from the outside of Ireland, and there's probably a lot of these products now being seized, and that's most likely what they're talking about. But again, like, are we worried? No, we're seeking this stuff out. We like this stuff. Like, the real danger lies when you get this stuff and it's not actually THC in there, when it's a concentrate of a synthetic cannabinoid. So, like, that's the real danger. The earlier warning within that article, talking about the synthetic toxic versions of cannabinoids. That's the real risk. And how we protect people from that? Regulate the product. And at the same time, you can bring in taxes, create jobs, and all these great things we talk about that legalization of cannabis would bring. But we can do a very important thing, which is reduce harms and protect people, which is a very important role our government should be playing. They're there to protect us. We elect them to protect us. We elect them to do things to represent us correctly. But instead, they impose these policies on us, which are actually putting us in danger, empowering violent, ruthless criminals out there to take charge of this industry. It's ridiculous. Agency director Alex Goodswell said he was particularly worried about reports they've received about the adulteration of cannabis products with synthetic cannabinoids. It says the report said 15 new synthetic cannabinoids were identified in 2021, bringing the 224 the number of such chemicals being monitored. So there you go, 224 chemicals in which fucking nefarious organized crime criminal langers can choose from to adulterate your substance and potentially put you at risk of a fatal overdose, because these things are deadly. They really are. It was the synthetic cannabinoids that killed that individual in the research trial over there in France a couple of years back, when they were researching cannabinoids for use in eating disorders. They killed somebody, brain hemorrhaged, because of synthetic cannabinoids. Meanwhile, organized crime groups are free to adulterate your cannabis that you're buying. And meanwhile, you're wondering why, you're getting headlines there, teenagers hospitalized. It's because teenagers don't really have good sources. Quite often, when I was a young fella teenager, I can remember being in the city one time and getting 20 quid robbed off me by some fucking scumbag on the road, because we wanted to buy a bit of hash off him. Gave him the 20 quid, said he'd be back to us in 20 minutes with the hash. So we went around for him and he never fucking came back, At least he didn't come back with some synthetic bullshit that they're coming back with now. And, we could have been that headline of teenager having being hospitalized because of cannabis. But it's not cannabis, it's synthetic cannabinoids. And they never actually correct their article then afterwards to proper reflect that either. And then you're left with that kind of long-lasting effect there that the people think cannabis is putting these kids in hospital. And they're not. Lazy journalism, doing damage to our community again because of prohibition. The report says criminal gangs were adulterating low-grade herb or resin with synthetic cannabinoids. So it's not just the cannabis, it's also the hash getting adulterated with the cannabinoids and chemicals with a similar but stronger effect. And again, like it's stronger, I think, is actually an understatement there, because some of these cannabinoids can be 1,000 times more potent per gram of weight, than THC. So effectively, if you had one fucking cake of THC that's going to get you stoned, and if you were to put the equivalent amount of cannabis oil in weight of this cannabinoid in there, it's going to be 1,000 times more stronger. So a gram of cannabis oil versus a gram of synthetic cannabis oil, 1,000 times in the difference there for some of these cannabinoids. Potent synthetic cannabinoids can cause more intense intoxication, mental, physical, and behavioral effects than cannabis with severe and fatal poisonings being reported. So fatal here being the primary thing to focus in on, is because cannabis doesn't kill you. There's no reports of people dying just because of cannabis. So synthetic cannabinoids, they can kill you. Not good. Legalize and regulate this stuff. Like, protect the people out there, protect the young people who are getting exposed to this they're more at risk than the older consumers. The older consumers, more connected, they're able to protect themselves. Again, young people, we're silly. We make silly decisions, and we take silly risks. Why make it any more? Keep it dangerous for them. As people may unknowingly consume high doses of synthetic cannabinoids because these adulterate natural cannabis products may use imprecise manufacturing processes, resulting in adulterants being unevenly distributed throughout the product. Imagine that, you get the corner with all of the cannabinoids and you kick it. Everybody else is like, I don't feel shit. I'm sure he's faking it. And meanwhile, you're going into cardiac arrest. Great crack, isn't it? It says this can be a result of products containing toxic amounts of synthetic cannabinoids, toxic, yuck, and concentrated pockets of substances within the products. Again, regulation is what would be key here, because regulations will put proper manufacturing processes as a requirement of the production of these products. Currently, prohibition, no requirements. It's like the criminals are like, EA, we don't like have requirements around the production, and we don't have to pay taxes, and we can keep slaves as workers because we can get them in from Vietnam for cheap, or from Eastern Europe as well. You know, they get them in there for cheap. It goes on to say that the report says criminals are most likely adulterating cannabis products to maximize profits. Oh, Jesus, you don't say. Saying THC industrial hemp is cheap. So there's one feed. They're buying CBD flower and spraying that with the synthetic cannabinoids. That was actually a sought after product there over in I think it was in Berlin. I think Vice did a piece on that there not too long ago. People were actively seeking out these synthetically sprayed cannabis flowers. It says this makes it easy to deceive dealers and users while only a small quantity of synthetic cannabinoid powder is required to give strong cannabis-like effects. It says available information indicates that some people who use these adulterated products may believe that they had purchased natural cannabis. They were unaware that the products they were consuming contained potent synthetic cannabinoids, and the report said monitoring this trend was complicated as the presence of synthetic cannabinoids in cannabis samples will not be detected unless forensic analysis is performed. So there you go, as a consumer, you have no way at all of protecting yourself unless you have a forensic lab out your back garden. It says last month, HSE clinical lead on addiction, Dr. M. Keenan, expressed concern at cannabis herb and edibles being laced with synthetic cannabinoids. He said these chemicals have been found by Forensic Science Ireland in cannabis herb for the first time this year. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. They've been found over the last couple of years. They put out a report there last year at some stage saying that they found them over the last 2 years before that. So it was probably the first time you're reading about it, but they've been reporting this for quite some time, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. Ever since the head shops were forced, you know, once you brought in your prohibition around some of these research chemicals, that's when we started seeing them popping up, then being sprayed on cannabis flowers and stuff like that, you know, replacing spice. HSE concerns around synthetic cannabinoids was also shared in relation to new synthetic catanone stimulant chemicals which are being sold as ecstasy to unsuspecting users. Another community of people are affected by the prohibition of their choice of drug, ecstasy, MDMA. You probably all seen, I don't know if people see the video of that guard going around. Apparently there was a guard off his chops burning away. But anyway, it goes on to say then that currently the average THC content of resin is 21%, is almost twice that of herbal cannabis, which is typically around 11%. Then 21%, I'd imagine it's kind of a bit higher. I always thought they were talking about the wax stuff at about 50-60%. Like, they're saying 21%, like, lightweights. Again, legalization, regulation, and proper education of not just the consumers, but also the regulators, it would seem. Or at least hire some experts like myself and others out there, like Greenbeard is another great expert, but I'd imagine he's already flat to the mat in his own job. So I'm free, lads, I'm free. Hire me. I can be your cannabis expert and tell you how to do it. I can just end the prohibition of it anyway and let people grow what they want. Selling it and producing it to sell it. Let's talk. We can talk shop then. The report goes on to say anyway, cannabis policies, the MCDDA reported more EU member states were developing recreational cannabis policies. In December 2021, Malta legislated for homegrown and cannabis use in private alongside non-profit communal growing clubs for recreational profits. Like, fucking well done Malta, happy days. Like that's a great step that any country could be taking, you know, that they can allow for the home cultivation of cannabis in private alongside these non-profit communal growing clubs. Like that's perfect. You can set up these non-profit cooperatives where people come together, they grow the plant for consumption, create these little clubs, create a social venue for the consumers and non-consumers to come and consume, because I'd imagine there's probably a lot of people out there who don't consume cannabis but will probably actually enjoy the company of people who consume cannabis. So they too would probably benefit from a social venue such as could be created from legislation such as passed over in Malta. One criticism of Malta I have is that, you know, that they're not accommodating for tourists. That's unfortunate. So when I go over there, if I was to go over there, I would still be kind of forced to maybe buy it from the street or maybe get it at the back door of one of these clubs. But anyway, yeah, it would still be illegal for them to provide it to me. But I don't know, maybe they can share it. You know, if I visit a local Maltese guy in their home, he can probably share it with me. That'd be probably handy. But if I was to give him money, then you know the cops get kicking his door. It's a funny one, or her door. Says Luxembourg is planning to permit homegrown as well, while Germany and non-EU Switzerland they're in discussions about the possibility of setting up a system to permit legal cannabis sales for recreational use. It goes on to say here, it says that most EU countries now allow the medical use of cannabis or cannabinoids in some form, but the models varied considerably, with Ireland so far operating a restricted system. Restricted? That's really understating it. Like, you know, it's fucking, it's like, it's a North Korean model, restricted model. It's more restrictive than fucking North Korean restrictive. Currently, large companies that grow and sell cannabis in Canada are also cultivating in Europe and supplying medical cannabis products to some EU member states. While people like me who went to college for 4 years are stuck here campaigning for change of laws that are going to benefit these companies, are going to come in and take over unless our policymakers get it right the first time. It's a long old article. I'm not going to finish off reading it. I don't think there's much more in there that's to be brought up. Go give a read if you want in its entirety. I skipped over a good bit as it's a long enough old article. It's over there in the Irish Examiner. An article put out by Cormac O'Keefe, security correspondent, because cannabis is something you have to be concerned about when you're security guy on it. Yes. Where do we go from there? There was one other. Oh. Before we leave Ireland, we got one more story. While we talk about the need for regulation and stuff and the patients out there getting access to cannabis. Like, imagine if you're the unfortunate person who was buying cannabis off of this guy, and you know this guy now is got no longer cannabis, and you go out there and you try to get cannabis somewhere else, and you end up meeting where is he? This guy. A man, 22 years of age, accused of drug debt, extortion, and dealing cannabis through Instagram. So this individual, I'm actually going to pop this off screen here now, and I'll read it for you as the guy's name is there. I don't know if you can actually see this guy's name, but I don't really want to be naming and shaming him. Although I kind of should in one sense, as he was using violence out there, but at the same time, I could see how easily that could happen as well, given the illegal nature of what he's doing. So it goes on to say within this article that this 22-year-old a young man, the Gardaí, accused of violent drug debt, extortion, and dealing cannabis online through Instagram, has been denied bail. And this is after the Gardaí arrested the 22-year-old, who is a father of one with an address above there in Dublin, as part of Operation Fogra. It is an ongoing investigation into intimidation in North Dublin. He appeared at a Dublin District Court yesterday, charged with demanding money with menace, assault causing harm, and cannabis possession and supply, burglary, and criminal damage. Says Garda Alan Clark told the court this individual made no reply to any of the charges. Says he objected to bail due to witness intimidation fears. So there was fears there that if they gave this individual bail, that he would intimidate the witnesses. So the officers alleged that the case stemmed from attempts to recoup drug debts from a man or people connected to him, including his partner's 80-year-old father. A contested bail hearing was told that the accused went to the partner's family home on December 4th, and the man who allegedly owed him money for drugs worth less than €1,000 saw him coming, recognised him, and fled. So your man legged it. So your man basically owed him drugs worth less than €1,000. So did he owe him for 50 grams of cannabis? So did he owe him for a couple of an ounce, maybe two? You know, what was the story? Or he owed him a bit of money. Your man wasn't paying him, he ran. So your man was a bit pissed off. And he said it said here that the guy tried to get into the house and he attacked the man's girlfriend. And you know, like, this is where I was kind of questioning. I'd probably name and shame him, like, you shouldn't be attacking women. But maybe the girl was fucking I don't know, like, you know, maybe just again making stuff up or whatever to go against the guy. But he then went and smashed up the elderly father's car. So again, you can't be condoning this stuff, and this was because of prohibition. This is because of prohibition. It's in a situation where you owe money to somebody, and this guy is probably coming putting pressure on them because there's probably someone putting pressure on him somewhere else, saying, I'm going to break your fucking legs if you don't pay me up. Like, he's just like, but your man owes me $1,000 there. Look, so I'm short. Like, and I'll sort it out. Like, it's like I'm a bad dealer. Like, I'm consuming my own stash, so I have to make sure I'm getting my money off people. And people don't pay up, then it's going to put pressure on him, and then he's going to be putting pressure out and taking his aggravations out, unfortunately, and getting arrested for it. But it's an unfortunate situation, because it needn't be the case. If it's all over cannabis, if we just regulated and sold cannabis, if we listened to Luke Ming Flanagan all those years ago when he put forward his bill to legalise and regulate cannabis, this young fella could have been spared his court case. This young fella could have been working within a regulated system and not being exposed to the life of crime that he's been living, and thinking that violence is the answer because, that's what you learn on the street. Or, do you know what I mean? That's the street rules, like, isn't that like? Violence is the answer. Because that's what you see, like, that's what you see in the movies, and that's what you see in, the drug dealers, they have to hold down their turf, and it's all made up. It's all made up for the it's all an illusion. It shouldn't be the case. Like, it says Gardaí believed that the victim had bought drugs from an Instagram account, and they searched the defendant's home on Wednesday, and it was alleged he was caught red-handed throwing shopping bags which contained about €10,000 worth of cannabis out the window. The investigating officer told the court that the Gardaí believed the individual owned the Instagram account, and the Gardaí obtained a warrant to download text and voice messages from the account. The court then heard from Garda Clark directions from the DPP needed to be obtained, but it was expected the case would be sent to a higher court. So they're going to look to do this guy and do him good. Pleading for bail, the defence solicitor said his client should have a chance to be released with conditions pending trial. He argued that there was no evidence of an imminent threat, as most of the alleged incidents mentioned happened 5 or 6 months ago. He said his client worked full-time and was in a relationship with his partner, who came to the court to support his bail application and offered to lodge €1,700 in lieu of bail. He also agreed to stay out of the Portmarnock and Malahide areas and sign on daily at a Garda station. And it says the individual, who has not yet indicated a plea, begged the court to be released, saying he wanted to be home with his family. However, the judge refused bail, said that the Garda had established the grounds to object for bail, and granted the individual legal aid and remanded him in custody to appear before the court on June 16th. So again, more cost, more time, more resources of the state being wasted here on this idealistic policy of cannabis prohibition. A prime example as to how cannabis prohibition makes life more dangerous for patients as well, because if you're an unfortunate patient relying on cannabis and you find yourself getting your cannabis from this guy, and if you don't have your money and time, you could be met with some violent response. So that article, I'm going to pop it up again there on screen so you can see it if you want. It's man 22 accused of drug debt, extortion and dealing of cannabis through Instagram. Again, can't condone behaviour. I don't support violence, and I know the guy's picture is up there. I know his name's maybe seeable there at the end of the thing. Look, that's nothing to me. I can't condone violence at all, but at the same time, you can't condone rats either and people not paying their debts. Maybe the cannabis was shit, in defense of the person not paying his debt. Maybe the cannabis was shit. I don't know. But again, like, violence is not the answer, but because of drug prohibition, it is the answer. It's the go-to, because sure, you're breaking the law already. What's the harm in breaking a few jaws? Yes, we 422 out there somewhere. Yes, we just missed the other 420. We already blazed up. We'll have to grind up another bit of bud. Temple Grower says, like a soapy sour D versus an incessant for all boys chatting about weed. By weed must be 0. No, Chilbert. I believe that's incorrect. I believe the 0.3%, 0.2% restriction is actually only on the extracts over there in Thailand. Flowers are actually allowed to have high THC, but the consumption of it in public is still illegal, so it's seen as a public nuisance, and you can still get jail time and hefty fines as well for engaging in public nuisances. But I do believe over in Thailand, and while we're on the subject, let's bring it up. There we go. Decriminalised cannabis like gold in Thailand. So this is an article that was published there on the 9th, which was the day it was legalised over there. And here we see pictured a guy by the name of Ritipong Bakyol. Sorry, brutalized, and really, let's call him really. He was the first purchaser of cannabis in Highland over there in Bangkok, I believe it is, or somewhere over there in Thailand anyway, where this shop opened up selling cannabis on the 9th of June. But I do believe it's high THC cannabis is legal over there. It's the extracts and concentrates and foods. So any food, edible type products, they have to be 0.2% THC or less. But high THC cannabis is available over there. It says it here on the in this article as well, and a couple of others. But look, I am open to correction on this. I'm trying to reach out to the Highland Cafe to see if any of the members there will come on for a chat in the podcast, and to explain this to me. But some of the available varieties that consumers were able to buy at the Bangkok Highland Cafe there were included sugarcane, bubblegum, purple Afghani, and UFO. And again, the first person there, our buddy really pictured above here with his bud of cannabis, said, "I can say it out loud that I am a cannabis smoker. I don't need to hide like in the past when it was branded as an illegal drug." So again, this guy, I don't believe he's celebrating just because he's able to buy CBD flower. I do believe he's celebrating because he's got some grade A primo Thai grown cannabis there. I do hope that to be the case anyway. I am open to correction, but I'm like 90% sure like that I've done extensive research in this over the last while. I've not yet talked to anybody over there from any of these cafes, but I do believe it's the concentrates, extracts, the edibles that have the restriction around the THC, and flower is completely unrestricted. It was legalized in 2018, I think, says Zombie Nation. I think there was some medical legalization over there, but it was just the importation of certain products like Sativex, Epidiolex, and stuff like that. It wasn't the flower just yet. This is the flower now. So this is proper medical legalization there in Thailand. Yeah, CG says for fuck's sake, people can brew their own booze. Just let them grow ganja, their own ganja. Exactly. Let us grow our own weed and let's do so unrestricted. But I think that the best thing about the Thai stuff is that the fact that the prisoners got released and that they got given back their cannabis if it wasn't after being destroyed, and that they got given back their money as well from their dealing if it wasn't also if it, if it was there. If the Thai police weren't after taking a few out of the of it, like, not saying that Thailand was corrupt at all. But some great news coming out of there. So it says here, look, an extracted content such as oil remains illegal if it contains more than 0.2% of tetrahydrocannabinol or THC, the chemical that makes people high. It says the status of marijuana is still in considerable legal limbo because while it is no longer treated as a dangerous drug, Thai lawmakers have yet to pass legislation to regulate its trade. So it is there to be sold, but it's not yet legislated for properly. So people like those at the Bangkok Highland Cafe are kind of still treading in choppy waters, maybe, they've yet to see a nice calm sea. There's a lot to be earned out over there. Sorry, the cotton mouth is real here today. But then, on Thailand, get over there. This is on onenews.co.nz, New Zealand. If you want to read it, decriminalised cannabis like gold in Thailand, and that's coming from the officials. But we go to another story coming out of Thailand. This was sent in by Mr. Finnegan, and it was also sent by John O'Regan. He posted it up on his Facebook first. It says 4 people were admitted to Bangkok hospital after using cannabis and 1 has died. And again, after decriminalisation of cannabis on June 9th, 4 men were admitted to hospitals in Bangkok for treatment after cannabis overdose, one of whom later died of heart failure. So if you think about this, for a long time, people have been consuming cannabis and like nobody's died of it. Now it's been legalized over there and all of a sudden people are dying. Like, I don't think it to be the case. I would imagine that the much more likely situation here is these people were probably after still sourcing from the black market in some form. And they probably got given some stuff that was laced with some synthetics. It's possible that all of these men around this one Bangkok hospital all got from the same source. They were still supporting the black market there because, as the article said there in the last one, it's still not been legislated for. So it'll be interesting to see if they do any actually investigation into see what the actual substance was that actually caused the overdose in this. My suspicion anyway, it was synthetic. Because of the I don't know the newness of the market over there, people are still getting from the black market, and unfortunately, these people probably were celebrating the change and got the synthetic crap. Unfortunately, so one of them was a 51-year-old man who suffered chest pain, and he later died of heart failure at the hospital, and another one was a 17-year-old and a 25-year-old who had heart palpitations after consuming cannabis and had been admitted to the Taksin hospital. So again, it could be people who was their first time consuming cannabis and, they have the bit of the freak out. That could also be a situation here too where, they were just shit, I can feel my heart. Oh no, it's beating too fast. Oh no. And then they just spiral out of control. They put themselves into a bit of a panic or whatever and they start getting palpitations. And that could also be a case. Another case involved a 16-year-old who was being treated in an intensive care unit at another one of the hospitals in Bangkok following a cannabis overdose. So again, 16-year-olds probably shouldn't be consuming cannabis anyway. And this person was at the hospital again. They just probably fell asleep and the mom and dad couldn't wake him up. They're like, oh no, he's out having an overdose. It's like, no, he's just having a nice old nap. Probably wake up in a minute now and ask for a bowl of Frosties or something. Get out there and not tell him toast there, man. Or well, they're over in Thailand actually. They'll probably get something a bit more better by a few slices of mango or a bit of coconut. Oh, yum. So yeah, I think this is a bit of misinformation anyway. I think there's some fake news here. Maybe some efforts over there by more conservative side who've got connections within the media to, hey, quick, put out something there to demonize cannabis use, and we can't be seen to be, too good of a thing. So yeah, I'm calling bullshit. My bullshit meter is fucking ping, ping, pinging. So yeah, that's coming out of Bangkok. Bangkok propaganda post. Yeah. Yeah, CG calling bullshit as well. I see that. Barry Field says, I've died from cannabis loads of times. There's nothing worse than you wake up dead after a cannabis overdose. Injected one too many cannabises and I woke up dead. I'm gonna go and tell the kids about it so they don't do the same. Yeah, see that, and not in America either. I see that Temple Grower saying here says, yeah, we still haven't done shit about our cannabis prisoners here in Canada. It's crazy, like, because they don't want to empty prison cells because, like, the government probably still has to pay for the empty prison cells. Like, they need to keep them in there, keep the jobs going. Because if they don't have like as many prisoners there, they probably don't need as many prison officers, and they probably have to do some layoffs, and that's not good. Keep them there. We need to look after them. It was still illegal when they done it, so we're going to keep them there. Oh, like fair play to Canada for getting it right. Like, or not Canada, Thailand. Unfortunately, Canada kind of did mess the whole thing up a little bit. Still a big legacy market going on over there, isn't there? Not TG. Kind of heard about it a good bit. But Bobby is in New York, and Bobby is a big supporter of Canadian cannabis. A lot cheaper than the American, he says. 3.5 years later, for fuck's sake. Yeah, man, that's crazy. 3.5 years later, and they still haven't gotten the prisoner situation sorted. Utter bollocks, alright. CBN, yeah. Cannabinol, yeah, I think that's the one. That's what all the cool guys are into now. Yeah, is that right? Yeah. See, there you go, guys. You heard it here now first on Martin's World. CBN is the new trendy cannabinoid. I'm actually going to start doing a series of videos, pre-recorded stuff, and I'll release some breaking down some of the cannabinoids and the pharmacology of those cannabinoids, how the body reacts to them, what goes on within the body when we consume them, and try to cover a little bit about the entourage effect as well of the different terpenes and cannabinoids together. So there's lots and lots of content I can actually come up with there with just those kind of set of molecules alone. So it should be fun. So I'll hopefully get those out there soon, and hopefully get some interviews going as well. Zien says 100% the tree that said no to cannabis reform. Especially for the privatized prisons, no cons, no profits. Yep, that's definitely in the US anyway. Is it private in Canada as well? You got private prisons up there in Canada, or the state run? Emperor says, "Oh shit, yes, long live the legacy market." There you go, guys. You know, it just says it for itself that unfortunately, even with regulation, that the regulators kind of overregulate, over yeah, that'll be definitely the word, overregulate, and cause a situation where a legacy market continues to exist. Oh, I'm not grinding up the last of the Blueberry hair, Bobby. I don't know if you're out there, Bobby. Gives a shout out in the old comments if you're in the thing, but oh, my cannabis grinder smells like cannabis. This Blueberry really is the shiz. So TG, you're saying here the majority of CBN is synthesized using nasty ass chemicals, though, and they are identified in reaction by by products still in the product. So be very careful with CBN and Delta 8. There are unidentified reactions, but reaction byproducts. I get what you're saying. So when you combust it, there's byproducts there which could be even worse. That's very interesting. All right. So they're synthesizing CBN. And what's the story there? Like, people are buying synthesized CBN. It's being added to products. Is it that the drinks? What's the story with the CBN? Just packing up a bowl here. I believe that is all the 420 news. We're gonna blaze up a bowl and have a quick chat in the hot box. I believe I did get through all of the headlines there today. I've just had one other one I was going to kind of talk about. You can have a look at it there if you want while I pack up my bowl. Yes, get your greens in, chat. Yeah, cocaine overtaking heroin as a main new problem drug in Ireland. This is according to a new study that came out there recently, using data that came in from some of the addiction services around Ireland, where people coming in with problematic drug use are identifying now cocaine as being their main drug problem. And very interesting, coming in from that then as well, as the people presenting with the problems with cocaine. They're going from 1 in 4 of them working full time to now 1 in 3 working full time. So there's more and more full time working people coming forward, identifying themselves as having cocaine drug use problems. So very interesting findings from this. But it's also identifying that crack cocaine use is going up in Ireland, as well as many other drug uses. It's continuing to rise within Ireland. Again, the main takeaway from this is drug prohibition has failed. There's people out there actively using cocaine. You know, there's more people within the working community who are actively taking cocaine, who are hiding. not identifying as a drug user. So therefore, we don't really know who's a drug user until they come forward as a problematic drug user. And then we think, sure, all of the people, who use cocaine must have a problem. That's kind of how it's seen, when it's not actually the case. And decriminalize, regulate all drugs. That's it. Quite simply, decriminalize, regulate all drugs for drug users to get access to. Again, nobody's going to do something unless they have a mental health problem that's going to be detrimental to their health. Really, okay, all right, I'll take that back, because I know people who abuse the shit out of cheeseburgers and Cheetos and sugary stuff. Like, yes, we will do things to our detriment, but that's where education comes in. That's where discipline comes in. If you lack those two things, then you can have a problem. Cocaine is a hell of a drug. I know myself to stay well clear of it. But to each their own. I know people who use cocaine, and it's like it complements their personality, I suppose I could say. Another interesting finding coming in from this is actually cannabis has reduced the number of people identifying it as a problem drug. So it's gone from where is that cannabis one out? Cannabis. Oh yeah, it was already up. And while there has been overall reduction in cannabis reporting cannabis as a main problem drug, there is an increase in the number of cases reported as an additional problem. So it's like less and less people actually reporting cannabis as being a main problem of their drug use. That's a good finding. Happy days. Civil disobedience on the way here, and then we'll say goodbye in we get about 5 minutes. Get your comments into the hot box. I'll say my hellos, shout outs to people if you got any. Get in your thoughts, opinions, views, and anything else you want to say. Get it in there, and I'll try to read it as best I can. If you got one of these and some of this, join me. Wait, no, we make sure that the studio is clear before. Yeah, all good. Make sure we got a good shot at the window. Got about 10 minutes there, and then I got to bring Miss Alexis up to her football training. Right, we'll have a look at what TG is saying here. It says, there are peaks on the chromatographs that are not being identified. I don't know yet. No one knows it. Whatever they represent are safe for human consumption or not. I'll send you some good articles about it if you like, and we can chat more off the record if you're interested. I have some opinions. Nice one, TG. We'll certainly take you up on that. Maybe we can hop on a Zoom there later this evening along with Greenbeard and a couple of others. Maybe we can do something like that. I've no other plans this evening anyway, after Miss Alexis does her old training. All the kids are in bed. I'm free. I'm a free man. CN says, isn't the natural formation of CBN from old stored weed though? At TG, that can't be good either. Yeah, that's true. THC apparently, when it's cannabis is stored, especially when it's stored incorrectly or improperly, it can naturally degrade to CBN, I believe. So yeah, you could be right there on that. CBN from THC. That is memory serves correct. Correct. TG says, yeah, but don't forget much. But you don't get much from that. There is a paper where they exposed weed to air and UV and could only get a max 17% conversion. But there you go, 17%. Interesting. Someone needs to feed hands. Nice and Green Bear, man. I hope you get to put the feet up there after your old hard days grafting. Says, plus I was like a spirit prick down there just getting in the way. I'm sure you're well used to that, but TG says it's there, but it's certainly not as high as people think. Demogorgon saying mostly CBD isolate is used, treated with horrible chemicals, isomerized to Delta 8 and then to CBN. Yeah, isn't Delta 8 what people kind of were after? Delta 8 having similar effects to the THC, Delta 9, Delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol, and then the CBN. Interesting stuff, yeah. Certainly send me on what you have and I'll read up in it and we can have a good old chat about it. Would be keen to pick your brain. Oh, we turn this wax off. Wax off? Wax on. Wax off. Wax on. Sorry, couldn't resist. As soon as I said turn this wax off, wax on just naturally comes, doesn't it? Even though it said the other way around, but forgive me. Wax on, wax off. Sorry. Temple Gore says you're moving bonds around on chemical structures using catalysts and acids. Yeah, chemical version, great crack, all right, but not really for the consumer at some stages, because of byproducts and all that crack and chemicals used. Glad some of you like that one. ZN says, shit, seedsmen have been banging on about CBN for ages, like it's dog's bollocks at Temple Grower. So there you go. Like some seed companies are actually been spouting on about this, and I've seen it mentioned all right in the past. I do think consumers should be offered a full detail as to what they're actually consuming, because as we know about like microdosing, even small amounts can actually be important when it comes to therapeutic effects. Zombie Nation knows what he's going to watch later now. Yes. Yes. And you know what was great as well? That there was the Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai was a great TV show there as well. I enjoyed that. Great show. Temple Grower says, time for some Forbidden Dream. Oh, nice, man. Nice. I just had some Blueberry. Again, courtesy of some legends out there. Green tea and Mistoas. Absolute heroes. CG says Pakistan Critical Kush. Nice. I've been meaning to do some nice hash kind of varieties. You know, I've been meaning to get some nice nice Pakistani varieties there, nice Afghani varieties as well. They're particularly known for good hash varieties. So hopefully you can get some of those genetics done some stage and maybe get some nice hash made. All that talk about high potency hash now is me wanting some. Yeah, that's right, ZN. No spoilers for people who haven't seen it, but yeah, Daniel's a dick now though. Car salesman for fuck's sake. That's it, like, you know what I mean? Where else are you gonna go? Like, you know what I mean? You win some karate tournaments, like, you know, there isn't much else for you, or there mean some token car salesman, like. He got to own his own place though after, you know, a bit of grafting and whatever. But yeah, nice one, Hunter. Great show as always. Hope everyone has a great evening. Nice one, Hunter. We'll have to, Hunter, you remind me there actually, if they get another pack of seeds out there to people. We've got some seeds here, a courtesy of Hunter as part of the Feed the Birds campaign. But they're too good to be putting out there around the countryside there. So they're just promote the campaign. You should really be keeping these as souvenirs. Yes, Greenbeard Bubba's Rect Hole for the win. I actually got 4 Bubba's Rect Hole out there to a person within the community last night who unfortunately had a male pop up there recently. So that individual was quite happy with those 4 little ladies, 4 little babies. The sex is unknown yet. I shouldn't assume their gender. How dare I assume the plants' genders before they even sex themselves? He says, well, he was never going to be a UFC fighter, was he, Ian? You never know. That would have been a twist, wouldn't it? Hunter says, doing as well as I can, man. Hope you're doing good too. A happy days, great stuff. Greenberg says, sorry, DT, forgot to reply. I'm good, man. Hope you're good, keeping you well yourself as well. Sorry, I'm just reading all your conversations now as it's coming in. Oh, nice. TG says, PCK and Hindu Kush. So that's the Pakistani. What was mentioned there a couple of minutes ago? PCK. Nice. Don't think that was you who mentioned PCK actually. Bobby was telling me about some strains over there. Apparently, there's some stuff going around the place now that like smells and tastes like garlic and onions. Like one strain that tastes like garlic, one strain that tastes like onions. Mad stuff. I'd love to get a taste of those. Imagine having a bong hitting a tasting like garlic. Like, oh, that's they're gonna be like. Do you know what I mean? It's taking garlic breath to a new level. Daily Talker, nice and for tuning in as well. To everybody tuning out there, guys, have a nice evening. Just going to read a couple of more comments before we sign off anyway. Daily Talker says, back from a new job and just changing the water in the bong for a nice evening bowl. Nice, happy days. Congrats on the new job as well. I hope it's everything you hope it to be, and I hope you have a long and prosperous career, man. And I hope you're happy at where you work. And that's the most important thing, is you're happy where you work. You know. I'm nice and baked. 3 bowls of blueberry, or glueberry. Nice and baked now. Greenberg says, an awesome. I really need to grow some out myself again. It's a cracking strain. Nice one, TG says, I'll put that out there for anyone else who wants to read. Nice one. You're making people jealous there as well. Mr. Wes says, damn TG, I want to try that too. Love Hindu Kush, enjoy since I seed one lately. Nice. Happy days, Mr. Wes. That Hindu Kush was exquisite. It really was, man. It was top notch. That was the first one I actually tried, the first strain, and it was exquisite. I actually done a stream with she not long afterwards, and I think I got maybe a little bit too baked beforehand. That was the stream when Elijah was on with me as well. Nice, and green tea's filling the blueberries we speak. Gonna smoke one in your honor. Appreciate that. Nice one, guys, for all the comments coming in. I'm gonna have to start signing off. I promise you 10 minutes, and we're just coming up on that there now. Billy Bonds, welcome to the stream. If you're just tuning in, says all the chankers seem to be lurking. Hi all. Well, it's out there, Daily Talker. Thanks a lot, Martin. Glad I got to see you live. Best wishes. Not a bother at all. Have a nice evening, Daily, man. Enjoy that ball. And sure, if you're going to tune in back, we had 2 shows today. Stream dropped at one stage there earlier today. This was part 2. But yeah, have a nice evening, everybody. We'll be back with more stream next week. Hopefully we'll get an interview or 2 done there as well in the coming days. But until then, guys, stay blessed, keep it lit, stay safe. Peace.